Hello and welcome to my Halo 3 ODST Final Thoughts video. When I first heard about this game during E3, I don't recall the year, probably 2009. I felt like it was just a special little treat we were getting from Bungie, really. I know I believe they were working on Reach at the time, but they wanted to put something out to kind of hold us over until Reach had come out. And ODST was a pretty good answer, and for a while since Halo 2, the ODSTs had been pretty popular. They were only shown like one time in the campaign in Halo 2, and then once or twice in the campaign in Halo 3, I believe, but even that much wasn't enough for them to get massively popular within the game itself and the community. Right off the bat in this story, we learn that this takes place during the events of Halo 2 as the I don't recall the Prophet's name. I believe it's Regret. During when the Prophet of Regret invaded the Earth and was in New Mombasa, and then he used slip space to jump to Delta Halo. And I like the very beginning of the game because this opening cutscene, it actually gives you a good feel of how each character interacts with each other and what their individual character traits are, with the exception of the rookie, because he's kind of supposed to be a mysterious character, really. And it's interesting, you can tell right away that Buck and Veronica have had some sort of past history, and actually getting to experience the drop down to Earth in the ODST drop pod, that is definitely one of the best parts of this entire game. And with that cutscene in Halo 2 going down to Delta Halo, it's like, I wonder what doing that is actually like. And in here you actually get a sense of that, since you get a first-person perspective this time. And it's also interesting to note that Dare, she has a recon helmet, but she almost immediately loses that when she drops down. That's interesting that Dare never informed the rest of the team of her mission. It seems like Buck never even did either, because they were completely surprised when she shifted their coordinates. And one thing that was definitely new in the Halo franchise completely was the concept of having an open world campaign, open world. Like, you can explore and go wherever you want, essentially. You could even go to whatever mission you wanted to go to if you had already beat the game before. And you also got the superintendent from the city that would assist you with, that was basically what gave you the map. And that was actually, it was a nice little touch. And then you also got the side story, I don't know what they were called, like data tapes or something like that. And they gave you an interesting little, side story that, played into the game as well, because you actually get to see the conclusion to that story within the game at one point, but you have to collect all of them. In this game, a majority of the time when you're playing as the rookie, it's you trying to find the rest of your squad, and you're trying to retrace their steps using clues that you find, and the whole way the superintendent is guiding you along where you need to go using the symbols on the street signs and the lights. It's really cool that you get to actually play as the other ODSTs in this game as well. Like, you get to see what they were doing immediately after the crash, or immediately after the ship left New Mombasa, and so on and so forth. And starting out with Buck here, you are essentially looking for Dare, because she's in her drop pod, but the door is supposedly locked shut and she can't get out. And it's interesting because even with the opening cutscene in this mission, you really learn quite a bit about what happened between the two of them before the events of this game. And one thing I am really, really curious about is, at one point in this level, you come across a bunch of dead Singhili, and Buck makes a comment to it about Dare, and she says it's classified information. But I'm curious though, is how long after when Buck was talking to Dare about that was immediately after the drop. I don't think the Chief had killed the Prophet of Regret that quickly. And even if he did, the Great Schism didn't start happening for at least another couple days after that. So
If I don't make it,
I feel like that doesn't really fit up, but that aside, it's a really cool touch into the game story itself. And of course, Dare says, you know, it's classified information, or Oni operative, whatever. And I mean, I'm not really sure why Dare wasn't actually in her pod. Why did she say she was in her pod when she wasn't? I'm still not sure about that. Like what exactly was her goal? And if she did get out, why didn't she tell Buck that she got out? I'm just kind of confused by that. You know, of course, Romeo and Buck are just assuming that she's dead. It was really interesting seeing all the engineers in this game. It was cool that they actually added them into a game for once. They were originally supposed to be in the first Halo and Halo Combat Evolved, but they were scrapped towards the end of the game. Not manufacturing, the game. Oh gosh, what is the word I'm looking for? Game development. Yeah, it was scrapped towards the end of the game development for whatever reason. I don't think they could really fit into the game very well at the time, but they kind of fit a better role now, I suppose. It's pretty cool playing as Dutch. It's actually kind of surprising that you get a Spartan laser playing as Dutch. I mean, he is just an ODST, and it's a Spartan laser, and they thought that it was just kind of an experimental weapon at the time. I could be wrong, but whatever. Yeah, it's so cool getting to run through the Safari in this level, but I think it would have been really interesting if they would have added in, like, lions and stuff like that. I don't know how much of a fight they'd put up against brutes, really, but hey, it'd be interesting. See a lion mauling a grunt. Having all the skulls on made this level a little ridiculous because, you know, at the beginning I tried to get into a Warthog and I just got overwhelmed by grenades. There were multiple times I got overwhelmed by explosives in this level. But having a lot more Marines with me certainly made it pretty easy too, because, you know, they would throw a lot of grenades as well. That was certainly helpful. And just like every other Halo game that I had any Marine to fight with, I tried to give them power weapons whenever possible. You know, fuel rods, sniper rifles. I've found throughout my experiences that giving them long-range weapons, even if it's not a power weapon, like even just carbines, battle rifles, anything that is mid to long range, that is the best thing for them, really. And then after that is explosives like rocket launchers and fuel rods, and brute shots if they are elites. And then after that is close range weapons like SMGs and shotguns, because they, you know, they're pretty much useless with that stuff. They have to get right up next to something to shoot it, and by that point they're pretty exposed and weak compared to the brutes or elites or whatever it is that they are fighting. And I suppose Dutch's objective throughout part of this level was to get to not a forward operating base, but to get to rendezvous with the local commander towards the space elevator, because they were trying to grab a tier 1 asset. I'm guessing it's probably an engineer. But in the process of doing this, you get to actually witness the space elevator collapsing and falling into pieces after the Covenant capital ship jumped into slip space. In the slip space event and the explosion afterwards, it weakened the support rings, as they said in the game itself. As soon as that happens, your objective immediately becomes finding a way out of the Safari itself. So that is your immediate objective as soon as the space elevator collapses. You just gotta get the hell out of there. I love Dutch's little speech at the end there about not having to do any more flying at the end of the day because he didn't sign up to be an airman. I certainly liked... Oh, damn, what was this level called? Kazingo Boulevard. I certainly liked Kazingo Boulevard. That was fun, getting to roll through the Mombasa streets with the Scorpion, and actually 2 Scorpions if you can get a Marine into one, or if you have co-op. And in ODST, you can finally sit on the passenger seats in the tank, which is a little useless, albeit, but heck, it's a cool little addition to the game. I mean, why haven't they added it, and why isn't it in Halo yet? I don't see why Spartan couldn't sit on the side of a tank. And finally, at the end of Kazingo Boulevard, you get to meet up with Mickey. Finally meets up with Dutch, so that makes Romeo and Buck have met up, and Dutch and Mickey have met up. That leaves Dare and the rookie still I almost said AFK, is still lost. And immediately after Dutch and Mickey meet up, they are basically put to task to destroy the Oni headquarters in New Mombasa because the Covenant want to get that information, that juicy knowledge.
Your vote?
And it's basically up to you. It's basically you're just kind of going back slowly, bit by bit, while they overwhelm you bit by bit, and then you get into the building and fight off some continuous waves, and then you finally get up to the top of the tower, fly away, and blow the building up. And at the end of the level, Mickey and Dutch actually make radio contact with Buck. So they immediately start heading over there to, to Buck and, I almost said Dutch, Buck and Dutch, Buck and Romeo, and they are at the New Mombasa headquarters. And playing the New Mombasa headquarters, you finally get to play as Romeo. You kind of think at this point in the game, you're like, am I gonna get to play as Romeo? I would like to, considering he's the sniper of the team. And you finally get your opportunity here, and you definitely, you definitely have to make your shots count. They modified the damage tables in this game, being an ODST, so all of your shots are a lot weaker. It seems like with a lot of the birds, it took 3 shots just to get them, shooting them in the head each time. So it definitely cost a lot more ammo. You had to use your pistol a lot more with this, and using a plasma pistol and the sniper rifle in combination was really useful too. And then also being able to give Buck a gun as well. I would try and give him a sniper whenever I could. That definitely helped me out with this level. And at the end of the level, after you fight off all the Banshees and the Phantoms, the Brute Chieftain drops down, kills off the last of the NMPD, and in this cutscene, the battle rifle makes a one-time little cameo in the video game into ODST. And that's just so cool. But unfortunately, Romeo gets pretty severely wounded. So yeah, they need to get him help. And lucky for them, Buck thought of a way out of the city, and they thought of going to the subway system to go through some of the tunnels. But unfortunately, when they get down there, they find out that a good portion of it is completely flooded. But Buck has the brilliant idea of stealing a Phantom and hijacking some Banshees, and then taking those bad boys for a little spin through the sewers. And the whole way through, we run into more than quite a few engineers, and all of these engineers, Buck basically just tells everybody just to shoot them all. You can't really blame them. They didn't know what they were. It's cool though. You get like an entire Banshee-based level in this game in ODST, and again, being an ODST is just kind of cool. And then getting the visor mode with that too, it was pretty useful, because without the visor mode, it would have been difficult to see throughout this entire game, basically, because it was all at nighttime. And after Buck, Romeo, Dutch, and Mickey escape the sewers in a fiery explosion, Buck thinks to himself and has a good idea of where Dare would have gone to. So he tells Mickey to turn the Phantom around and head back to the city so he can find Dare. And after that occurs, the rookie actually receives a radio transmission from Dare herself. So you find out that she actually is indeed still alive, because up until this point there really was no sure way to know. But this confirms, she's still alive, she's underneath the city, and she needs assistance, so you need to go and haul your ass over to her. And once you find your way down the elevator shaft, you get your way into the data hive, and that's where the superintendent is and where Dare is. And along the way down here, you actually run into a New Mombasa policeman, and he kind of assists you along the way, but eventually dies. But if you collect all of those little info side story things, then he actually keeps going with you, and eventually he will get to a specific room, says he needs to go in there alone to check on something. And if you go in there, he's gonna say, no one's supposed to see this, I'm sorry, so I have to kill you. And then he turns into an enemy. basically him and his police chief were responsible for killing the guy in there, which is the father of the main character in the side story. But eventually, after fighting through the data hive, you finally find Dare, and the two of you take off to go continue through the data hive and then go through the, oh gosh, I don't want to say the data hive again, but go through the like the drone nest that's all up above the data hive. You have to go through that. And that's pretty cool, getting to meet the actually meet the superintendent, because that engineer downloaded all of the information from the superintendent. So essentially, that engineer is the superintendent in a way, because the superintendent was an AI, clearly, based on the interactions from the side story with the main character. So it's kind of cute. I don't know. The engineer just seems kind of cute. That's cool, getting to fight your way out with the engineer, because he gives you overshield, so you're kind of like a Spartan a little bit more. You're like a Spartan, you're like a half of a Spartan 3 basically, but that's only if you stand close enough to the engineer, so yeah, that could cause a problem. In the final level on this game, you actually get another little bit of another Warthog driving experience. It's not nearly as intense as Halo 3's or Halo 1's, but it's definitely full of combat. There's more than a few opportunities you need to mow down enemies before you can move forward, so it's not like you just need to continuously drive through the whole thing. You actually need to shoot shit. And the whole time, you know, I think if you stay close enough to the engineer inside the dump truck, then you can actually get overshields too, but I could be mistaken in that. And the end of the game is basically just like 3 or 4 waves of like firefight. Then the level ends with all of you trying to climb into the Phantom. The engineer is trying with every bit of its might to not go into that thing. And the whole time this is happening, you have a capital ship flying overhead trying to glass you. I love the whole personality of all of the ODSTs, really in general. Like, they were all really diverse characters, I thought, in my mind, and you know, I gotta say, out of all of them, my personal favorite was probably Buck, just because he was kind of a sarcastic asshole. Well, yeah, he was kind of a sarcastic asshole in a way. And he was just like that gung-ho soldier, just really cool. And then Romeo, well, I guess if anything, Romeo is really more the sarcastic asshole, but they're all pretty awesome in their own right. And at the end of this game, or at the end of this cutscene, it's pretty much coming to the beginning of Halo 3 at this point, because the Covenant, they are uncovering the portal to the Ark. You know, I gotta wonder, where exactly is the old city that you fought in Halo 2? I don't really get a view of it, I think. But this was definitely a really fun game. Certainly a different experience when it comes to Halo, getting the open world experience, and then getting that. It wasn't so much of a stealth element with the silenced weapons, because they didn't. I mean, the enemies were immediately aware of your presence regardless, but it was still kind of a nice touch, getting the suppressed weapons. And actually, you know, having it be nighttime, it did add to the benefit of feeling like you were, you know, being stealthy and running around, and you can actually assassinate the enemies and stuff and act stealthy, or you could just run in guns blazing. And a side note, whoever thought of adding this end cutscene, the epilogue cutscene in with Johnson and the engineer, was a fucking genius, because this is hilarious.
I know what the aliens like.
I know what the aliens like. Johnson seems to know what everybody likes. It's too bad he died. But yeah, I definitely love this game, and I hope that 343 Industries makes an ODST too. I mean, obviously they can use any of the same characters, possibly Dare, but I don't know. One can hope. But anyway, I think I'm going to end this rant discussion here. If you enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them down below in the comment section. I hope you have a great day, and peace out.